Well, good hump day morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here and let's wake up the football gods. Hope everybody's having a great day. I hope you have a wonderful hump day. Hope all your humping dreams come true. Yeah, that sounded kind of weird. All right, so we are now post Odell Beckham Jr. being wooed by the Dallas Cowboys. And I got to tell you that actually I didn't actually watch the clip of it, but I'm going through and looking at Skip and Shannon's headlines. And they're saying, did the Cowboys screw over Odell Beckham Jr. by leaking what has been said about his knee, about it not being ready? It's not really a surprise, because if it was ready, he would be doing workouts saying, I'm ready to get on the field right now. He's sowing the seeds for getting signed. The hope is that maybe he'll be ready by the playoffs sometime in January. But the reality is that knee is just not ready. It's just not ready. And, you know, I'm okay with that. I'm looking at a 30-year-old receiver coming off back-to-back ACLs, who's looking for a multi-year deal, and he's not even healthy yet. And we are so deep into the season that at this point, I don't know how much you could get even if you did sign him now. Now, the Cowboys may sign him. They may sign him to a incentive lace contract, Jerry Jones, I think, was looking for that guarantee that he can get to the big dance this year, and thinking that, well, we've seen Odell. But, I'm going to go back to some of the things. I got caught up into the whole Odell Beckham Jr. I've been on the fence on this thing. How many times have we thought about a named player and think, oh, my God, if we only have that guy, we're going to be good. We'll be able to just win it all. Because in our mind, we're not thinking about where the player is now. We're thinking about what the player was before. And see, there's a thing, unfortunately, being a Cowboy fan, being the most popular team and the most scrutinized team, we see basically the good, the bad, and everything else. We end up micromanaging and them finding a player or two that are bad for a player that look awful. When we deal with other teams, we only really see the highlights. They don't overanalyze like they do the Dallas Cowboys. So what you see are really only the good things. You don't see the bad as much. They're not going to degrade. If you look at some of the other teams and some of the quarterback play and see some of the throws that are being made that we get killed for that don't get mentioned on other teams. It's just the way it is with the Cowboys. And so in retrospect, we as Cowboy fans, we look at the highlights and we think about the highlights of what we've seen about this dominant player. He looks so good. He's so great. If we just had that guy. And a lot of times we're thinking about the players from what they did before. I'll give you a great case in point right now. The Eagles traded a 4th-round pick. Now, I'm not mad at the Eagles. The Eagles, they gamble. That's their way. We will go ahead and bring people in. If it doesn't work, we'll move the hell on and keep on doing it. And right now, that's working for them. But you're going to get misses. They gave up the 4th-round pick, Robert Quinn. Robert Quinn, who had 18 sacks last year. And you look at that and say, oh, my God, we're adding a guy who had 18 sacks last year. This year, he's had 1 and none with the Eagles. And now he's going on injured reserve for the next 4 weeks. So basically, he's got nothing for him. Now, we'll see what happens with Lavelle Joseph and Ndamukong Suh and see if those guys pan out. But in your mind, when you signed him, you are hyped up about those 18 sacks that he had last year. The reality is he's not that guy right now. And that's where we have, I'll give you another one. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, who has 8 TD passes on the season. When Russell Wilson was about to be traded, there was a lot of teams out there that said, oh my God, if we just get Russell Wilson, including Cowboy fans, we just get Russell Wilson, man, we're going to be in the Super Bowl every year. You're remembering Russell Wilson when they were winning Super Bowls with the #1 defense and Marshawn Lynch rushing the ball for 1,300 yards. You're not looking at the Russell Wilson who's been injured a lot over the last few years and steadily going downhill. And so this is a case of maybe with Odell Beckham Jr., and I'm not saying that Odell may not get back to being great, but it's going to take time to get there. And if your whole thing is we need to win now, he's not going to be the guy. And this feels a lot like the trading deadline day with Brandon Cooks. We get all excited and hyped up that, yeah, man, we're going to be trading for Brandon Cooks. You know, Brandon Cooks is tweeting back and forth. We got the Cowboys are talking to him, and the deal falls through. And then it's like, oh, you know, the talking heads go, oh, the Cowboys, they had a chance to get, you know, Brandon Cooks and to solidify, but not realizing that screw what these guys say. These guys said the season was over when Tyron Smith went down. They definitely said it was over when Dak Prescott broke his thumb. They said it was over even before all that because the Cowboys didn't sign people. That the Cowboys didn't go all in and try and get Russell Wilson and go out and get the Robert Quinns and the Bobby Wagners and the Von Millers. They don't care about winning. But somehow, here they are. And in the time since we were looking at Brandon Cooks, look what the offense has done. Last 5 weeks, 39.8 points a game. I know people are going to say, oh, well, it's only the Colts. Well, the Colts only gave up 17 to the Eagles and were in front of them for 59 minutes. I will say it was also against the Giants, which are right now the next seed down for the playoffs from us. I also say that it was Minnesota, the #2 seed, that they did this. We got guys. And CeeDee Lamb, through the course of the last 5 weeks, has averaged 89-point-something yards a game, has averaged a TD a game, has averaged 14 yards per reception. If that were quantified for a whole season, that's almost 1,700 yards and 17 TDs. He's getting better. He's getting more physical. You're seeing Michael Gallup get better. And now we got the unicorn. And we got a great defense. And even though we had a shit game, Dak Prescott, probably the worst game we have ever seen him against Tampa Bay to open the season. Even though we then had our backup quarterback playing with this offense for 5 weeks, winning, but only averaging 22 points a game. That right now, the Dallas Cowboys lead the NFL in point differential at 129 points without Odell Beckham. And this is before we get Tyron Smith back, before we put James Washington in there. Yeah, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. So I want to listen to this morning's Get Up. I haven't yet to hear this morning, but I'd like to hear what they have to say about Odell and can the Cowboys do anything without Odell. I'm going to say the Cowboys got to this point with the guys in that locker room, and I believe in those guys.
Keeping me honest today, let's live in a world in which the Cowboys don't sign Odell because the knee is no good, or they sign him and he can't really play this year. If they don't, right, like are they good enough, Chris Canty, to win this year's Super Bowl?
Yeah, they're good enough to win this year's Super Bowl. They're right now the second best team in the conference due to the Jimmy Garoppolo injury, knowing that he's not going to be back in the regular season. And that change or that update with information, to me, puts so much more pressure on Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys to finish the drill this season. They have a clear path when you look at it. Outside of the Philadelphia Eagles, there's no other team that you trust more than the Dallas Cowboys. Their defensive line has the highest pass rush win rate. They have the #3 scoring offense. This team can run the football. They can throw the football, even without Odell. Michael Gallup having the uptick in production, I think, takes some pressure off of that situation, the urgency that they had with the Odell negotiation. So, no, this team is good enough to win a Super Bowl. And quite frankly, the addition that we should be talking about is All-Pro Tyron Smith, who's going to get back this week in practice. You're talking about adding him to the offensive line with Tyler Smith, their rookie first-round pick. That's the area that the Cowboys have a weakness at. They're last in pass block win rate, so adding an All-Pro tackle at this point in the season is huge for them, bigger than the Odell addition.
The Tyron Smith re-addition would be nice, but I think we're dealing with similar issues with him and Odell is we don't know what version that's going to come back. So because the name on the back of the jersey reminds us of greatness of old, doesn't mean that we're going to get that back. The injury to Tyron Smith early in the season before the season started, looked pretty bad. And we can't assume that he's going to come back at all-pro level. And the same thing for Odell Beckham. You don't know how much you need those players until other people get hurt or until something happens. But Odell Beckham, as great as he is, on a leg and a half, he's not going to be good. So, we have to understand that having those high expectations in the ACL, I tore my ACL. Most ACLs take a year or a little bit more to come back from. A lot of players have changed that perspective, but it's not true for everybody, particularly when you have multiple. It's reasonable to suggest that Odell Beckham won't be back to true form, if ever, until next season.
Right. The injury was in the Super Bowl, so about 10 months ago, so maybe not quite enough time to recover. Do they need him?
Do they need him? No. Any team that's interested in Odell right now understands he's a luxury item. He's a very nice luxury item if he's healthy. But none of the team, you didn't see the Jets or the Jaguars. You know what I'm saying? There are teams that we already think are in that Super Bowl contender pool. Those are the teams that are looking at Odell. He's a guy that you add. You don't add him because you think he's going to be the focal point of your offense. You think, okay, maybe late in the division round, maybe late in the conference championship, you find Odell and he scores and you win a game. That's really what we're talking about.
All right, so let's take him. Let's take Odell. We'll take him out of this. Was it like the Cowboys as is, right? And maybe they do get Tyron Smith back, right? His practice window opens this week. They have 3 weeks to activate him. Maybe they get him back in time for the playoffs. What are the expectations for this team? Right, no, right. If they don't win the Super Bowl, right? If they lose in the NFC playoffs, is that a failure of a season?
Don't say that.
All right, then.
End of the show.
First take is next.
No, because think about it. Picture this, guys. The year is 1995.
Oh, here we go.
The last time the Cowboys went to the conference championship, and I just think about all the teams that have gone there since then. You know how many teams have been to the conference championship since 1995 when I was 4 years old?
How many?
26. 26 teams have gone to the conference championship since the Cowboys went there. That is what we're talking about. Forget Philly, forget the Bucs, forget everybody else. This is about Dallas and their failed expectations year after year. And this is why Stephen A gets such glee out of this team losing, because they continually disappoint. And with this roster, Odell aside, they are good enough. And to not take advantage of the NFC being so weak this year, it would be a crime to me.
Is that we hold the Cowboys to a different standard for whatever reason because
for whatever reason.
No, it's not for whatever reason. It's because of what the owner said. That's why we hold them to a different standard.
I don't care what the owner says. I can evaluate a roster on my own.
Isn't the owner the one that sets the expectation for the team? No, the owner's not.
He's not my expectations. Me watching what happens on the field is what sets the expectations.
So how should we be looking at the Cowboys?
I think that the Cowboys are good enough to win a championship. If they do not win a championship, I don't consider the season a failure. What I expected from this team, none of us thought they were Super Bowl contenders before the season started. I don't think anybody at this table picked them as such. Now they are legitimate competitors. I think they should be able to get to the Super Bowl. If they don't make it to the Super Bowl because they lost in a random single elimination playoff game, we can't pretend situation like this is some sort of travesty.
Sir.
Man, that sounds good. Let me tell you what happens. Right now, if the playoffs started today, the Cowboys have to take a visit to Tampa. Yeah. They lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike McCarthy is getting fired, and that is representative or reflective.
I don't know if I'm gonna
that is reflective of the expectations that they have on this team. And the owner put those expectations on coming into this season.
Okay, I was riding with Chris.
Yeah.
You were.
Yeah. And then he just swerved off to fire Coach Lane.
It's not a swerve. It's not a swerve. It's not a swerve.
Oh, God.
Look, they lose to Tampa.
They won't lose to Tampa.
The team that you said is awful.
They are. Okay. They won't lose.
They are. But
Wow.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube.
Wow. Okay. So it's amazing how we went from the Cowboys suck. They don't care about winning. They don't have, their offensive line is terrible. Their running back Zeke Elliott is done. Dak Prescott is an average quarterback. They only have, that Diggs is overrated. Micah, is good, but the rest of the defense stinks. Is that where we went? That we literally went to now, if we don't win the Super Bowl, it's a disappointment. How is that? How is that? I'd like to know how it is we went from being considered a sorry-ass, no-good team, terrible franchise, to now, if you don't win the Super Bowl, you are a big disappointment. Well, I guess it is what it is. The Cowboys will get back on the practice field today, be it not in pads. They are having now their winter practices, so to speak, which means we are not hitting. We're trying to keep the players fresh and uninjured for the rest of the season. Excuse me. And we are opening up the practice window for Tyron Smith, and we believe that, James Washington hopefully will get a little bit closer to being able to play as well. So that's where we are, good people. I have some stuff I need to go do. Got some work to do in the workshop. I may be a little bit live later on in the workshop because I've got a bunch of stuff in there I got to get for you guys after I go get this car inspected. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and we'll see you later.
Our coach here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe for the Sports Report.